Okay, now we're recording. Now we're really recording.
All right.
I wonder if there's a way to is there a way to show both
Hell yeah. This is how we do it. This is easy.
oh, here we are, we're
Actually,
fucking experts. Boom.
I was gonna grab a drink and I didn't have anything.
You should I
my
mean
God,
you gotta get one. I might adjust a couple little levels if you want to grab one. But it's up to you.
I don't even know. I don't think I have anything. I'd have to go across the street, and I don't really feel like going outside.
So, welcome to. Try it again. Welcome to A Mutant's Manifesto. Welcome to A Mutant's Manifesto. Welcome to A Mutant's Manifesto. Oh, fucking no. Right. Well,
I can't remember.
So, I guess welcome
What
to
is
A
that?
Mutant Manifesto. Here we are. This first episode is just purely, basically exploratory. I'm here with Carson,
Hey.
and my name is Jackie. And, yeah, this is gonna be, I don't know. I don't know if whether to preamble or not. I haven't really planned anything for this episode at all.
I've got a few questions, and that's really all I had.
Gotcha. Well,
Yeah, preamble is great.
what were you like? Yeah, it was like, I've been feeling pretty, I don't know. There's a lot of things that you tell yourself, that you want, and then as you achieve them, the realization starts becoming, I don't know, like, I've been thinking about, I guess, I don't know. Yeah. I guess one way to kind of present this is on a very personal way. And it's just me saying that, I've been, struggling a little bit with, alcohol, and with lots of addictions as well. Like, gaming, porn, nicotine, things like that, just a lot of different things. I've been saying that the kind of my thing with all these is that I cycle between them. So none of them get too bad.
Mhm.
But alcohol is really the one that's been sticking with me for a while now. It's just so easily available, and like
Yeah.
it goes so well with so many things. I don't know. There's and so like basically the question becomes like I don't really think that it's destructive to me. I don't think that it's.
Mhm.
I mean, it does limit my like mental capacity in various ways. But the question is like, is that bad? Like, is that actually bad?
Yeah.
Like, and
Yeah.
because the only ways that you can really say that it's bad are things that I don't even really necessarily believe in to begin with. A lot of the things, like,
Mhm.
oh, I would be more productive if I didn't drink. I would be, it
Yeah.
would be less empty calories, right? I would be like thinner, maybe, or like healthier,
Yeah.
quote
Yeah.
unquote. But all those
Mhm.
things, I actually do have, like, what would I, why do I want to be not, why do I want to be productive? Why do I want to
Yeah.
be thinner? And like there are reasons for those things, but I can't help but sometimes feel that they're rather shallow, um,
Yeah.
and or misled. But that kind of brings me to this sort of point where um, I need, if I'm going to be productive, if I'm going to do something other than just like drink and play video games, which I don't really see a problem with. But at the same time, there were things that I remember from my past and things that still kind of animate this will to do something in
Mhm.
this life. And
Mhm.
insofar as I have that will to actually do something,
Mhm.
um, it is to you know get some distance somehow from this like kind of sense of stasis that
Yeah.
I feel is kind of I think a lot of people have the sense of stasis even though the world is so rapidly
Oh yeah.
changing. And so like
Yeah. Of course.
what does it mean to meaningfully emerge out of that kind of stagnant pool
Yeah.
and actually
Yeah.
do something? And what do we want to do? Cuz like just like why do I not want to be drinking? Like I get everything I need to be doing done. I'm pretty productive. I like have good relationships, all these things.
Yeah.
What is this thing that I would be producing beyond what I
Mhm.
already am?
Yeah.
Well, one of the yeah, and now I'm kind of rambling on and on because it's kind of hard to
No. No.
articulate. But the
Yeah.
answer has become um, like a podcast is a good thing to do because it's like it's a way to structure a
Mhm.
pathway out
Mhm.
of my current routes and routines that I'm indulging
Yeah.
in. And
Yeah.
so that's just kind of one small example. Hopefully that made some sense. And I think that
No.
just
Totally.
like just in time, the podcast sort of thesis will sort of emerge because a big part of it is
Mhm.
also to be in like anti like telos, anti like One Direction,
Yeah.
anti like you know.
Fuck One Direction.
No, I mean except for Harry Styles.
Yeah.
No, except for Zayn. Zayn.
Yeah.
He's got an amazing voice. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
No. I don't. Yeah. Interesting. Like, well, just to respond to yeah, that because it's like it's funny because I'm kind of coming from a like you know I can't drink
right.
like I would like to. I miss it, and it feels like yeah, like a bygone time for me. That feels like I can't do it because like I just get sick. Like and it's not even like a drinking type sick. It's like actual like so unenjoyable, and like yeah, there's not really any way. So I'm pretty like sober, and that's been my life for like 4 or 5 years now. Um, like yeah, I'll have a beer every now and then, but honestly, sometimes I drink half a beer and I'm just like, dude, I feel terrible. Like, yeah, I get all the negative effects of it like I get basically like feels like I have a hangover coming on as I like start drinking. I don't really know what's up with that. I mean, so like it's funny because I guess it's kind of a pathway into why I was really interested in this was because like I came to a lot of this through illness and trying to figure that out always. And I mean, it's pretty. Everything's pretty good right now, like feeling wise, body wise, and all that. But I've been crawling out of my own stagnant pool for it feels like 3 years, and um, yeah. I mean, but I feel like we can talk about both, like what you're saying and what I'm saying, both from like similar analytical like things, and that it would reveal I don't know where we want to
Mm-hmm.
go,
Yeah.
what sort of movement is possible and desirable, and yeah, because I don't know, like this past year I was like I moved out of my parents' house like a couple of years ago. That was like a big step, falling out of that, and then being like, all right, I just have to basically lock in and work
Mm-hmm.
um, at a job that I can like manage, basically, and a job that I don't like feel too fucked up at, like
Yeah.
something that's not so at a detriment to my like well being that I can survive doing it.
And sorry,
And
just to clarify,
yeah,
like, because like last time I saw you in person
hmm
was like right after the pandemic, and
hmm
right, yeah, and I think I remember you
yeah,
were kind of over. You were at that point even dealing with this kind of mysterious illness
yeah,
that,
yeah.
um, and so that would definitely be interesting to talk about because it kind of your quest to figure out what the fuck was going on with yourself, like physically, was kind of
Yeah.
revelatory of like all this like interesting like medical
hmm
industrial complex failure. Um,
Yeah.
and it was funny. It was funny timing with the pandemic and everyone being all
I
suspect,
know. I know.
suspicious
I
of
know.
the. So that's a whole topic that we could
I
definitely get
know.
into, and something that we
That's
should get
tough.
into.
Yeah.
But when you say
Yeah. I feel like that's
when you say like you were looking for a job that you could handle, did you mean like in context of
mhm.
that, or just in general?
Yeah. Yeah. No. No. That, but like that on top of, or that mostly, and then the other usual shit of like, is this just gonna drive me crazy? I'm so like bored and like
Yeah,
I'm
I mean, which is
belittled
also
so
like
much to the point.
yeah, maybe like where we could try to get. I mean, like even just with this, like us both kind of explaining our ailments and
Yeah.
looking at this as like an opportunity for some sort of alternative. Like
Yeah.
it's a funny comparison and contrast because I think that like my ailment of like I guess alcoholism and yours like are like you could kind of say that mine is self imposed to a certain degree and yours is not.
Mhm.
And the same thing
Mhm.
with like my question is like, oh, is that because are you talking about a manageable job in terms of your physical health or in terms of like just in general? But all the different, but there's no question that an average job affects people's physical health in a million different
Yeah.
ways. And also, there's no
Yeah.
question for me that I mean, I struggled with alcohol um, in the brief moments during the pandemic when I didn't have to work,
Mhm.
but I was able to have drink. I mean, like there's no question that like work itself is a big reason for uh, any kind of sort of coping that people do,
Yeah. Yeah.
and not to
Mhm.
mention it takes away their ability to pursue what I'm trying to pursue right now, which is like I've
Yeah.
only now been able to pursue it. It's very hard to find those times and that motivation
Yeah.
to do this, even though
Yeah.
it's like easy and nice now that we're doing it. But it's like it's like,
Mhm.
and I feel like that's a big reason why people like me turn to some sort of addiction because it's a way to like the only alternative to that is the creative process, and the creative process is very difficult to engage with.
Yeah.
Like, just if you have another, like, like the majority of jobs available to people. But yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of cut you
Yeah.
off. You were saying,
No, no, no.
yeah,
I don't know.
but I kind of cut
Well,
you
I can
off.
talk about like
Yeah.
we'll figure this out.
hmm
um, I yeah, I mean, I can talk about like what happened with me. Um, at some point, I could talk about it a little bit right now, but
Like
I
your
mean,
health thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I feel like it was, it's not only just like what you said about like basically experiencing the failures of like yeah medical system, but it's like oh like sent into realms of feeling and like sensation and understanding of your body that like I never like would have accessed otherwise.
Hmm.
I mean, that's kind of the I have like a personal like I don't know, like it's not really it's like a just a question of like, if you look up and you're reading about a lot of artists or writers or I don't know, musicians like but especially writers, a lot of people dealt with some sort of ailment chronically.
hmm
Like that I don't know if it just like I feel like people could be like, oh, it's like an effect of the times or something. Like, the medical like world wasn't as advanced. Like there was still like, tuberculosis in like the I don't know, like Western world and like things like that. But I feel like there might be something more of like, you know, like illness or some sort of like thing that challenges your being able to be in the world in like a normal way. That it's like you seek ways out, and that's just like yeah, like how to get out of yourself, out of society, how to just leave things. And it's like I feel like writing, yeah, like art, like is or a creative process or something is like both hard to access, but at a certain point, like for me, it was kind of like, oh, I actually like need to be writing through this, otherwise I like can't explain like what's going on. And I actually had an interesting like realization that like it's poetic when you go to the doctor, for example, and you have 5 minutes to explain an extremely complex and contradictory and frustrating like experience, and you have to choose like how to describe what you're feeling and how to describe what has happened. So it's like, and I mean, it's stressful as hell, but it's like, you go to enough doctors and you do it enough times that it's like you get some sort of an elevator pitch. But for me, like for example, I have a hard time always trying to like get a succinct like this is what's going on or this is like I don't know what's happening to me. And it's weird because then you come up against like just in conversation of like, oh, like ideology and like what ideology is um or like how capitalism, yeah, like changes how we think of ourselves and some people and how we, yeah, like I don't know, just stuff with doctors in general is it sucked. But yeah, I think that like people that are chronically ill are interesting a lot of the time because
Yeah.
it's always chronically ill, or not just that, like we can expand it of course into if you're dealing with any sort of disability or um any sort of non-normative like functioning,
Yes. Yes.
which is like I feel like what we're gonna get really
Yes.
into.
Totally. No, this
Yeah,
is
so
this is huge. Like, this is exactly kind of what I'm trying to. I mean, okay, so you hit on a couple of things there, and there's a lot of themes. Again, this is something that you can't just like come out and say. It's not something that you can just be like, here's what it's interesting about this. Because I mean, mutants is like that, but like that's not all of it. So because it's really complicated. But one thing you said there is okay, so the idea that like ailment kind of calls your attention, right? Calls your attention to something, and so and like woe is a part of art for sure, and like also there's again, not to be solipsistic, but there's no mistaking the fact that also like a lot of fucking poets have been alcoholics or addicts of various kinds. And again, addiction itself is kind of a questionable phrase, but they've been because like people have used substances throughout time. We could get into like a Terence McKenna, like ethnobotanist, sort of like, oh, like we live in an alcoholic culture, so that's like it makes sense that there would be so many people who kind of use it as like a shamanistic quote unquote like tool, but. Beyond all of that, another shamanistic tool, quote unquote, because like shamanism is a fake term, but is like is like pain and like suffering, and if not that, then queerness. Like if you are intersex, or if you have a physical mutation, things like that, you often are relegated to a sort of mystical position in a small tribal culture. And then in this culture, or just in general, like any kind of so like the idea that ailment calls attention to something, there's a lot of mystical aspects of that go really deep for me. Because if you think about it, and I don't know if you've ever had experiences like this, but like sometimes if you're feeling like you're, I don't know, there's like so let's take like writing as another example, because like writing, like you were saying, it's almost like an extension of your body. Like it's a way that we as creatures who do have syntactical understanding, like once we do have the ability to write, it becomes a part of how we articulate ourselves and how we know ourselves, and as a result it's like part of who we are. Like my name is part of who I am, like the words that I say, my beliefs, they're as much a part of who I am as like my hand, especially in this world, which is also sort of codexed out and so matrixed out. So but let's think of like, what is there to write about? Like only divergence it becomes interesting to write about. Like the only thing you can actually say is something that is not something else. Like that's something that is, otherwise it doesn't matter. And like quote unquote AI with all its algorithmic stuff is kind of proving that, because it's like
that's what I was thinking.
It can only regurgitate, and as a result it doesn't really, I mean, this is a whole nother topic. I don't know. But mainly the metaphysical thing is that what's the point of living if it's not a journey to the underworld, like, which we undoubtedly are in some kind of one of those. But what would the point of like incarnating be if it was already a perfect world? And if it's not going to be perfect, and also raise the question, like, what is perfect? Because everyone has a different idea of what that is. So, like, what would be the purpose of life if not to explore it? And how do you explore life? By experimenting, So and then this kind of also goes back to like another aspect of all this for me, which is like a mad scientist, like almost morbid curiosity. Like you want to through writing. Like I'm interested in like body horror, like David Cronenberg, like Carpenter, like and like these explorations of like like expanding the capabilities of the
Yeah.
flesh, expanding the capabilities
Yeah.
of awareness and experience.
Can I say something about that? Just that I like prior to illness, like experiencing illness like I did, it was I was like extremely averse to like like horror movies or like reading like horror things or anything like that. Like, and now I've really gotten like an interest in it, and I think mainly because I don't know if it's like, oh, you experience some of it and then it's like, oh, like I don't know if I can say that I'm not as afraid of like feeling so horrible, but like, you know, it's like you can recognize it and it's just like, yeah, like more of this. And like I do feel like it becomes maybe more manageable, like you learn your own strategies and stuff. But like um yeah, like so I do feel like I like what you said, like it's almost like illness or yeah, addiction or something can be like a keyhole or whatever into like a new like realm of existence that like I actually do think like I don't know, like it is shaped and like changed me in ways that like sometimes I'm just like yeah, like this taught me a lot of stuff and maybe made me a better person. Um in you know whatever ways we could talk about like me being a better person is, but I do feel like I've become much more empathetic, patient, and like I don't know, also like more of a personal rage at like how things are. Whereas before, I think it was more of a, you know, like a nominal, like in theory, oh yeah, like
Yeah.
everybody should have free healthcare or something. But now it's, you know, going through something like that, it's like, no, this is fucked up. This is bad. Like this is like, I don't know. So it was motivating, you know, like it
Yeah.
yeah.
Which again, like, and like, so this is kind of like, it's kind of fun because I feel like all these things kind of fit into this, like, you know, body of interest that I have in this topic, because everything kind of feeds into it a little bit. But like, you know, for that reason, the idea of mutation, the idea of like being historically, there's this idea of the human as the thing that liberals are supposed to care about. But it becomes more and more clear that actually the fact is that like being a Homo sapien is not what they're talking about. Like human is actually a pretty limited category. And so it's the times that we, you know, trespass that boundary and that we start to see the shortcomings of the, you know, of the human-centered neoliberal orders realm of care.
Nice.
I mean, and like you would, so like the alternative to that is, and like, right, so like, being physically, quote unquote, mutate, like, you know, being like physically abnormal, is kind of a part of it. I don't know, because like there's also like disability justice. Well, no, I think they would have a similar perspective. A lot of them. There's a lot of like, you know, leftist, like material. You know, I think that having disability, being disabled, from a lot of what I've read about it, like, you know, kind of necessitates you building a materialist sort of understanding of civilization. Like, if you are wheelchair bound, for example, like, you know, like you need to like knit social bonds, like as a survival strategy. And like how much do we accommodate for those people? And then if you're you know, if you have that positionality, then you're like, okay, I understand why I need that for my own existence, so then I could understand why this person would need this, or blah blah blah. Totally. So like, again, not only does pain and like disability or whatever you want to call it alterity, not only does it like
Mhm.
uh, create like inspiration and like the reason to exist, but it also like
Yeah.
is like almost necessary for empathy in a weird way,
Yeah.
or
Yeah. Yeah.
a
Yeah.
real
Yeah.
empathy, because there's the nominal empathy that you described, and then there's like actually feeling like, oh, I understand.
Mm.
Yeah, another one is like the big, everyone's saying trauma, trauma, trauma these days, but
Yeah.
if you have experiences to certain traumatic experiences, if you have like exposure to certain traumatic
Mhm.
experiences, then you have like an opening, like a keyhole, like you said, to experience the sort of like oceanic affect that comes from those experiences and that otherwise you don't really know about. But it's like this sort of like hovering like above or behind
Mm.
yourself. Like there's this sort of like
Mhm. Mhm.
um, liminal experience that you kind of gain access to.
Yeah.
And that's another thing where it's like the actual having the trauma allows you to have these experiences of empathy with people and to actually understand layers of what they're talking about when they talk about that stuff. So,
Yeah.
you know, um, that's yet another like just like when you experience alterity, when you experience going beyond the bounds of like normal stuff, then it just like allows you these sinews of connection between you and like other
Mhm.
people or whatever. And like
Yeah.
I would also say another really important thing to bring up would be the it also potentially allows you when it's about the body, then it can maybe allow you also common experience with like other mammals and then by extension like
Mhm.
other animals. I think
Mhm.
people like to think that there's like so much difference, but like
Mhm.
the you know you have flesh and blood, you have a nervous system, you have I mean, but you don't want to diminish the differences either. But that's another like topic that I find very interesting and important in these conversations. Like empathy
Yeah. Yeah.
isn't limited to just like one species, and it's like the body is a good sort of way to
Yeah.
find similarity, find
Yeah.
like common ground with like other mammals, for example.
Yeah.
But
Well, this is cool because
I'm kind of just trying to like lay out all the different possible routes that I'd be interested in delving
totally.
into during this.
Yeah, I feel like we're gonna touch on. I think that works great because we're gonna just organically touch on a lot of this stuff anyhow, just like bringing it up, and then yeah, maybe then later we can actually get into it. But
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, this is cool because this is also like I didn't even have to ask the question. That was basically my first question. Was just like when thinking about what mutation or mutant means, it's like, is it just difference? Like, is that all it is? And but it's funny because we're talking about like, oh, it's like I don't know, difference, but then like you change and like there's like a element of becoming something else, and like it's not just for you, but for like so many things in life, and like
yeah,
um, and it's like I don't know, like even just bringing up something like trauma, like I don't know if I know all that much about it, but I feel like I've gleaned like, oh, like we're talking about something that like has, for people that are more like inclined to this, like it has like physiological like changes, like your body like literally, I don't know. Yeah, this
Yeah.
is always going to get into like some like kind of gray areas, but that's
Hmm.
great. And yeah, but like I do feel like, like I function physiologically different, like differently than I used to. And like I guess the like like difference or alterity, it's like the way it's filtered through or overlaid by like varying schematics of like what, I don't know, what life, like yeah, what human is, like who, what and who is human, like what is a good life.
Right.
And like so it becomes like all of that. It's because it's like you have to grapple with all of these things. And I like what you said about like yeah, if you have a disability, that you develop like a more, yeah, like I think you said more materialist. Like I think you like understand in ways that people who, don't have to think about these things, or yeah, haven't been forced to, um like you understand things more like just directly and intuitively of like, oh, it's like it's disabling to have like debt, or to like have
Hmm.
like medical
Yeah,
debt,
totally. Totally.
or it's disabling to pay rent, like that's
Yeah.
like where you get into stuff like that, those more direct, like, yeah, like I think you said sinews of like, oh
Hmm.
yeah, you can just like, that that's what's going on. And instead it doesn't have to be this like, I don't know, it's like it brings it from a realm of like abstraction to something that's like yeah, more material, um fleshy experience and
Yeah.
connection to stuff like that.
Yeah, I just want to mention another thing, like Jasbir K. Puar has a book called The Right to Maim.
Hmm.
And it actually was written like in 2016 or something, but it like focuses heavily on Palestine. And this is in
Nice,
an
yeah.
era where the whole idea is that like the like Palestine as a whole and also individual bodies within Palestine are just cordoned off from different capacities, right? They're decapacitated in various ways. It's like
Hmm.
prior to like October 7th, like we've seen basically that strategy. Like there have been people killed for sure, but like a lot of the time people were shot, their legs were shot, or like the limited water access or internet access or food, all these different things, caloric acid, like all these different limits was the
Hmm.
regime of domination. Like that was legal within the international,
Yeah.
that was able, we were able to get away with that. And I mean, that certainly applies to America as well. But it's very interesting how like disability and different categories of identity play with one another, because there are also like one thing she brings up in that book is like how a lot of disability activism in the states, which mirrors queer activism as well, but a lot of it has been
Hmm.
like let me recoup my like white privilege. Let me like recoup what I was promised having been born. Like when
Yeah,
if you're
exactly. The
born in like
right
an
you
upper
have.
middle class
Yeah.
white existence, then it's
Yeah.
like, oh, I should be able to like go to college, get a good job, this.
Yeah.
And like, if I'm in a wheelchair, who are you to say that I can't have a good job, have a good mortgage, blah 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 blah. Same thing about like, if I'm like Aziz M, like why can't I like have access to all these things? If I'm, you know, whatever else may be the case, like trans or whatever, like gay was when it, trans, etc., etc. But like, um, and it's like yes, you should, but like at the same time, those rights are not a given, and that's the thing. Like they're supposed to be universal. Like they're not universal rights. They're only given to people based on certain like spawn points and certain like positionality, and they're not universal, and they're almost by necessity not universal. I mean, I would like to believe that they're. I mean, we certainly have the ability currently to like have everyone have those things, but I think it's worth keeping in mind too that just like where you are in the world, like mutants, because then you can like see like Arca and like Bjork and like all these different experimental avant-garde artists who are like, I'm so avant-garde, I'm so mutant, I'm so weird, but they have all these accesses, like, and effectively a lot of the times, like you see it in high fashion too. You display mutation, you display alterity in a decadent way that doesn't really that says like, look at how much I can flex my alterity like from within the empire. So I want to say also that the mutant isn't just like low, and it's not just like it's weirdly like it has like this weird relationship to like value and position, because because you also think about like the Habsburg jaw and stuff. Like inbreeding is a product of, or is a way that you get to visible mutation, and
okay.
And then also like all the different silly little decadent things that rich people do, like this crazy bullshit that people do. Like that guy who's like siphoning his son's blood to like remain young or whatever. Like that's a pretty mutant-esque thing to do. It's a pretty vampire-esque thing to do. But like all these rich people are doing this shit. So like and like all the different like, oh, now we have like Apple Watches and stuff that sort of expand the human potential. Like transhumanism is another element of another strain of mutation. So I think that like I think that there's no doubt that you and I have like a aspire to like a materialist leftist politics. So like tracing like the mutant is not an innocent figure in that like nexus. So I think like that's definitely something to be aware of too. I don't know.
No, I guess I just want to like. So do you mean like, I don't know, like I think I said like flexing mutation, or like flexing like a mutancy or something like. Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, like I'm kind of I have sort of like I'm definitely interested in that. Yeah, like basically mutation as like as a fashionable thing, or like strangeness and and disability as well, as like something that you try to you try to. I see people like use it as like at the Met Gala. I see like Doja Cat like doing transhumanist or like abhuman looks all the time. A lot of drag performers, which is something I'd be interested in getting into more. Like do like sort of like transhumanist or like abhuman displays. And also you see like a lot of people try to feature like non-typical. Well, I guess it doesn't really happen that much, but no, I mean that's what I'm sort of talking about. These sort of like
say. I'm curious. What were you going to say right there?
Well, I was going to say that we see like people try to like feature disabled bodies in like media as a way to sort of like tokenize and gain acceptance clout based on that. But then I was like, you know what? We don't actually see that very much. Like we don't really see visibly mute. Like I guess there's like that girl with like Down syndrome who was like in Sports Illustrated that one time. Like that was like a year, like 2 years ago. So like I don't even remember the last time that I saw someone with like a visible. I guess obesity would be something worth like mentioning in this category. But like or like anorexia, I suppose. But like. But most people are pretty damn normal outside of weight, Outside of weight, we see basically like pretty like everyone's. We don't really see anyone like in wheelchairs, like as a model. Like so, I was gonna say like, oh, but we do see that. we do see them like using their like eccentricity for like those sorts of things, and they do exist in some circles, but like it's not, you know, not that common.
Yeah, it would almost be like an easy one or something is like, you know, walking with like a limp as like a performative, or like, I don't want to say performative as in it's fake, like it's inauthentic or something, but like, oh, but then like, you know, there are people that like can't not limp, you know, and it's like, or
Yeah.
and also, I mean, what I'm thinking of immediately is just like, you know, all the ways that like, you know, the representations in media is like is not the world. It's just like,
Of course.
yeah, even like if you do see someone with some sort of like disability featured, yeah, it's like a model or something. It's like, oh, but the ways that so many other things make like people with mobility, like, I don't know, troubles, like make those people invisible to the rest of us, or the rest of the world, or whatever.
So basically,
like, yeah.
So basically, if I were to boil down my thesis to one thing, it's like, okay, if we believe that the basic idea that like we should be fighting for humanity, right? If like that's a common thing that both liberals and conservatives, you know, leftists and like fucking what do you call them? I don't know. I guess some crazy people don't even believe in this shit, but people who do, it's a lot of people do.
Yeah.
Well, there's a serious problem with the category of human. Like the category of human, how do you actually define it? And I mean, this is not to mention the fact that like you can define it all you want, but in reality, like you said, like the representation of what we care about, like the human, you know, it's like it's a racially ambiguous or variable. It is but basically pretty much light-skinned, no blemishes, two legs, two arms, you know, 10 appendages, blah 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 blah. Has communicative ability, you know, has the ability to write, has the ability to comprehend, be part of society, reproduce, is, you know, able to be productive member of society. All these different things, right, don't apply across the board to all Homo sapiens. But so then once you start to say like, okay, we should care about people even if they don't have the ability to communicate with symbolic language, or if they can't see, or if they can't hear, or whatever. Or like, I don't know. Like for me, it's like, you may as well, like, just like the representations that you see in media are not the world. Similarly, any political subject you choose is not all is not all subjects that I care about. Like, I care about a dog, and I care about like some people and not others, and like, you know, based on who I know. But I do want everyone to be like okay as possible. So how do you build like, what can you replace the human with? My thing is the mutant, because the mutant is like, everyone is a mutant. Everything on Earth is either a mutant or a clone. Like so you basically, and even clones change based on their, you know, even them, they are like changed throughout their lifetimes, hypothetically, based on like experiences they have in their life. So like the mutant is like a universal subject that is universal but not universalizing. You know, it's like universal, but it's not trying to, like, even if we believed in humanity as a universal subject, then everyone has to strive towards whatever humanity is. But mutant by definition is something that takes what was before and then like adds a twist on it, you know? And so like that's what would it mean to strive towards that as a basis for a community? You know, it's like as open-ended as you can possibly be about like who's a member of the community. But it's like, but then it's like, oh well, then what are we even doing here? Because like that is just everything, and that's exactly the question. That's the hard part. That's the manifesto part. Like, how do you
Yeah,
take the
yeah.
subject that's so wide and so open
Hmm.
and is by definition changing, and then like make something
Hmm.
principled in that context? Because
Hmm.
I'm also like I'm always looking for like direction in life, and I think a lot of people are. They want to be told what to
Hmm.
do, and I believe in that. I think we should find that, but it's like that would also be changing and mutating as we.
Hmm.
So the idea is to find, yeah, like a principled approach to helping one another and ourselves,
Hmm.
um, that itself is always changing.
Yeah,
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 I don't know. Yeah,
yeah. Developing like an ethic, I guess, and then yeah, like yeah. I guess the point of a manifesto, or what I'm thinking is like, oh, you are trying to whittle down like something that is presentable, something to present to the world, it's a manifestation, or some like demonstrating, bringing into existence, like something,
yeah.
and
Because we need to. That's
it's
the thing.
cool
Like,
because
you could say that everything's perfect the way it is, but that's not the case. Like, we could say like, oh, I believe in mutants, but that's not even. That's not really the point. Like, if that's the case, then like, what's the
yeah,
point of that? Like, so there needs to be some direction there.
mm,
But the question is, what
yeah,
is that direction in a context where like
right,
I don't
well,
believe in like justice with a capital J, or like
mhm,
peace with a capital P. I don't know. And there's like a
yeah,
million different manifestos we could talk about. The Communist Manifesto, this thing,
yeah, yeah,
which is like a lot of them could work, but I think that they themselves always need to be updated as well. And
yeah, of
so, like,
course,
they should
yeah,
be mutant as well. The manifestos should be mutant.
yeah, yeah, nice. I mean, yeah, I think we're gonna try and figure it out.
Yeah.
I like as a first like thing is like because already, I mean, we have to recognize that, like, as you said, most people, like, and we're probably going to be talking a lot about like, most people in the like, whatever, like Western developed
Hmm.
capitalist world that
Yeah.
like are are like believe and are integral to the project of human, that it's like we still have to like do work like basically spreading like an anti-human propaganda, I guess,
Yeah.
of like trying to first tear some of that down. And like,
Yes.
of course what's funny is like the easy response would be like, oh, you're like, you're a misanthrope or something,
Right.
you hate people, but
Right.
it's like, no, we're tearing this down so that actually, that this is a more hopeful, like, I don't know, optimistic, beautiful project to
Yeah.
like tear
Like
a lot of this shit down.
yeah. I mean, um, because the mutant accommodates all human. It accommodates people, all people. Like anyone is a mutant.
Mm,
Everyone is a mutant. Every person is a mutant. So it's like a wider umbrella. So it's like if you care about
mm,
all of humanity, then this is even better than that. Like if you believe in that. But I can't
mm,
help but a part of this, and if we do Donna Haraway's A Cyborg Manifesto for one
mm,
of our episodes, one of the most important
mm,
things that people forget about that essay is that it's ironic. She says that in the first like paragraph, and
mm,
this is also not free from irony, because
mm.
the question is whether the humanist project is even feasible to begin with. Like, does anyone really care about humanity?
Yeah,
But so like I'm trying to one up it. I'm saying like I care
yeah,
about
yeah,
humanity and other creatures. Like,
yeah, totally.
but like, is it? Are we on the same page? Truly, like if you care about
Right,
all
right.
people, why wouldn't you care about these other things? So this is a bit of a challenge and a bit of an ironic like
Mm.
posture here too, because I'm also not like yeah, and I know we've been on for a while, but like
No,
I
no,
guess
it's
it's
good.
also like I'm also not like I've also am aware that mutant has like a sci-fi like fantasy element to it as well.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so that's another part of this. It's like I believe in this. I believe in this as an ideal, insofar as everyone else believes in humanity as an ideal. Like, which I don't know is really. I don't know if it's real or not. Like, do people really care about each other? Like, I don't fucking know. And like, even if they don't, though,
Yeah.
I think that it still works because it's like, by definition, mutant is like a fragmented category that's full of like holes and contradictions. And so, like,
Mm-hmm.
if you have like a mutant community, it means like it allows you to be like, I care about my like gang of mutants, my little marauding squad of monsters, my like
Mm-hmm.
strange network of compatriots, and like you can make that work however you need to. Like, because I think that it's sometimes I'm a little bit. I think a lot of people feel misanthropic all the fucking time. Like, it's a very easy time to feel misanthropic. We've done. I mean, there's a lot of like horrible syndromes that are running
Yeah.
through humanity that do some very bad things, and there's
Yeah, but
plenty to be mad at. So it's like I don't need to believe in all of us. Like,
Just gotta understand it. Don't wanna mend, don't wanna bend, take off. Just wanna play around. Don't wanna, just wanna laugh. And I wanna get fucked up, and I can't take pills. I don't really take a couple hands. Don't really wanna talk to you. I don't really wanna find. Just wanna fuck you good. Wanna fuck you bad.
but at the same time,
so
there's probably something redeemable in all.
But that I like that, because something that I was thinking about was like mutation as a concept of how it can be applied. And one of the ways that we could like apply or think about mutation is like mutation as like an intervention, as like how do we mutate things? How do we mutate ourselves? Mutate, I don't know, like how do we fuck things up to like create space for something else, space for like we don't know what it's going to be, and it's not going to be one thing. It's not going to be like, I don't know. So the idea of I like, yeah, and actually, what's cool is like I'm actually getting more into this, because I think when you first like brought it up with me, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm thinking more in like a sci-fi, like very specific, like I don't know, like connotations to like mutation and mutant, and but I like it. What was I just gonna say? I like it as like something that encompasses like a constant like potential uh, of becoming, or a constant process of becoming. And I feel like this is probably going to be a maybe a theme that we come back to. Is like, because I'm like, yeah, I'm really interested in that. Like this process of decomposition, breaking down, regathering, altering forms of matter, and then like something else comes out of it, and it's like, like there is like a way that we can, I don't know, like just think about things in a way that actually could be more accessible than a lot of like I don't know, left theory, or like I don't know if that's even a good term. A lot of like historically like theory from the past 150 years or something, like or whatever. I don't know why I'm like
No,
in
yeah.
a certain time frame, but like, you know what I mean? Like it's like if people aren't gonna just like read certain things, like I don't know, it's like, oh, it's cool that you could get like gamers or like people that I'm making like kind of generalization, but people that often feel very like frustrated, stuck, or in some sort of circuitry of like addictive type, like
Yeah.
I don't know, like, and like the like shame and everything that comes out of all that. I do feel like a mutant is like a like I don't know, a way into a like what's it, politicizing, like, or like some sort
Yeah.
of yeah, like
Um,
that is accessible, like on like a fun level too. Like
yeah.
that's what it's all about as well. It's like
Right.
you gotta have fun. It's got to be a good time, or else people don't care. Like,
Exactly.
people are not going to be attracted to it.
And like
So it's
including
like,
me, like you know what I mean? I mean that's
Yeah.
and again that kind of goes back to the whole point of it all. Like it has to be fun in order for you to want to do it. And that usually means you gotta shake it up a little bit. And that's the thing about your life in general. But like you'll never do it unless you have the structure somehow. So like even just having you interested in this project like makes it like kind of makes it possible, you know, like because like
Yeah.
then you have like a pathway. I don't know, but
yeah, I mean, yeah. It's funny. I just realized I forgot my like username on here is fun destruction.
oh yeah, I like that. Yeah,
That's the thing, and I kind of like was working with that because it was like, oh, like how do we still keep this like spirit of change and the spirit of like
Yeah.
tearing things down.
yes, because
like,
the world we
gotta be
live in,
fun.
like the whole world is full of circuits and cycles and like stagnation, like by design, including the English language. Even I mean, we get like so much to talk about. I'm kind of gonna I don't know, but but like so like making alternatives to it necessitates destruction. Okay, if you live in a world where like everyone needs to be a certain way, like let's take a very easy example, like take a world where everyone has to be cis, and
Mhm.
to be trans is to destroy the social fabric.
Mhm.
You need to destroy the social fabric in order to live your best life. Like you need to do that, like, you know, or else you're just like, you know, live a fallen version of what you could be, of what you are.
Yeah.
So like that's the idea, right?
Mm.
But it's like that's
Yeah.
the truth in so many different ways. Like it's not just about queerness, you know. So like there's so many different elements
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was thinking like it might be kind of a fun gimmick to try to like come up with like a little, like we could actually try to kind of develop a manifesto as we do episodes, like,
Mhm.
and like with each episode the manifesto changes, mutates a little bit.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
Octavia Butler has this phrase that she uses, or she has like in the parable of the sower, like her protagonist is someone who has the mutation where she like can't help but feel everyone else's pain. She's like an empath by
Yeah.
you know it's her you know blessing and curse. But then she also develops a whole new religion based on the scriptures, the like torn apart, like it's an apocalyptic world, like near future. But the main thing that her religion relies on is the idea, it's like God is change or whatever. And so then the manifesto is just shape change. Just shape change. That's the whole idea there. She's just
Nice.
like, oh, we have to shape change. If God is changed, then we have to shape change.
Right. Yeah.
So that could be a good starting point, or we could maybe try to change it already. We could add something or something.
I mean, the only thing that I'm thinking of right now is like, well, because my first instinct was, or the first thing I was thinking was like, oh, that's kind of like the human condition or whatever of like, but then I was thinking like, no, but everything like shapes change, you know,
Mhm.
like animals, plants, like it's like it does go beyond, like a human project or something. So,
Yeah.
um,
There was like
yeah, I mean,
it could be like there was a phrase that I came up with when I was like falling asleep a couple days ago that was like a really good triple entendre, but I can't remember what it is. But it was like mutate. It was like mutate. It was like change, mutate, change, or something like that. It was the take on shape change, but I think it had mutant in it or something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't have anything right now, but I mean, like that's an inevitable things like come up with. I know we're theorizing a manifesto.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it can be. I feel like that's like a funny like that almost sounds like a political like slogan.
Yeah.
And
it's like a call to action. It's like it's like a thing you can chant. But
yeah.
But we could start with shape change and
shape
see.
Change is cool. I've never heard that.
Shape change.
That makes when you said it.
Shape change. Shape change. Shape
change.
It's like also change shape. Change shape. Shape change. So like the idea is to you've got to figure out if it's going to be happening one way or another. The circles we live in are like blinds. They're blind little circuits, which I'm a part of, and I think that like I wanted to, it's like addiction, right? That's literally what it is. So like I want to be in this hedonic treadmill, as Matt Chrisman would say, who is someone we could talk about. But also, I desperately want to get the fuck out of it, because it's like part of me is like, this just feels so wrong. But like, what do you do? And you have to sort of like build yourself a way out. So like you have to be both constructive and destructive. You have to be like open to change and flexible, but also like you have to have some kind of will there too. So that's like a weird. It's like you got to shape the change. Like you have to be open to change, but you also have to do some shaping. I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know though. But
no, I'm thinking about a lot of different stuff that could be applicable for. Yeah. We'll see what we come up with. See what happens.
Do you have any closing thoughts?
I mean, yeah, we probably already like went through this spot to some degree, but like, this is like a practice of it's a practice of many things, but it's like a practice of resilience, which is cool because it's like that. I'm thinking like a mutation is like an adaptation, like that. Like if I don't know, like or something does not fit the circumstances that it's in, like it adapts or it mutates, and that's the process of like adaptation. And so like I don't know, like mutation as like a resiliency, as
absolutely,
like and I feel like maybe there's something manifesto-y or slogan-y about that, of like, I don't know if I can pull 3 words out of it, but it's like, I don't know. It does feel like a movement. And what's cool is like I do feel like more, like we didn't even really talk much about like the expanding of like mental health and like all of that, like neurodiversity and like all of that as like, I don't know, like a movement of people coming to terms with or identifying themselves as like divergent. And but yeah, as we already said, it's like, oh, like these systems, they're like impossible to always like it's impossible to achieve perfection even within the system or something. Like even if you, I don't know, I feel like people have talked about that with like whiteness, for example. Like,
Yeah, masculinity is a really good example for that too. Like you can never be a perfect man. Like there's no perfect. Yeah. Even by any one standard, there's no one can live up to any one standard.
Right. So then it's like an identification with like I feel like in the psychoanalytic spheres, like people call it like a lack or something, like an identification with like that we're all lacking, that you recognize like a lack in yourself and a lack in others. And it's like, oh, but if the world that was built for us or is being built still is for like this ideal like perfection where there is no lack or whatever, that it's like, oh, that's incompatible with how people are. Like,
yeah, exactly,
so
totally.
we have to mutate,
yeah,
as like, or just recognize maybe like a mutation. Like,
yeah.
I don't know whether it's just like saying we're already all mutants or we are going to be mutating in response, or like, but it's both.
Like, yeah. So like another thing. Okay, so mutation is both the engine to drive success for any adaptation. Like, it gives you the ability to fill a niche, but it also, the vast majority of the time, a mutation will result in a lack of success for the individual organism. In terms of like the biologist, which is which is, and this is a huge thread with all of this, a colonial figure. Like the biologist and most of what we understand about species comes from a very Western, like very Enlightenment style thinking about like success being the dominance in very particular types of ways.
Yeah.
But so another fixating on the mutant though, as like our kinfolk, like that's our tribe. It actually, it is exactly what you said. Like I like the idea of universalizing it, like every single person is mutant, but also like it allows for both. Like a mutation doesn't mean like, that's what I'm struggling with a little bit. Like the mutant lifestyle could result in failure a lot of the times, but like failure to who, and like what does it mean to celebrate that life just as much?
Right, exactly. Yeah. Like, and that's where it's like, oh, like mutation as like dysfunction, or as like, to borrow like kind of that's a pretty like health realm term, I feel like. And like people talk about functional medicine or dysfunctional, and it's like, oh, like it's kind of like a mapping of like, it's not about like whether something is like good or bad or right or wrong,
right,
but more about what you just said of like shit, I lost it.
Well, yeah, I mean the question is like, really the question for me is like, should there even be a move? Like, is there even a should to begin with? But I believe there is. I think it has to do with empathy, and I think it has to do with like acting for the common good. I believe that there's such a thing as the common good, but I think that the common should include things that are commonly excluded from it.
Yeah. And okay, I guess here maybe I'm coming back to like what did you say before? There was like mutants as like a fallen being.
Right.
And like oh, if we're trying to envision a new world, a new life, who can we look to but people that are like fallen, which I feel like has a lot of like angelic, like kind of godly, demonic, like,
well, yeah, exactly, because angels are crazy mutants in the way that they come to us, and so are demons, and so like humanity is this thing in between, but like that's a very stasis centered worldview. It's humanity will always be right here, but that's not the. I think we can evolve beyond the sort of like sadomasochism of that worldview. and be like, what about lateral moves here? Like, but, like we don't have to be in this dialectic where like it's like we're being punished or we're living like such a narrow life. Like, that reminds me.
Mhm.
I was thinking I started recording the second episode potentially, which could be like my like thesis statement from college, which is about like animals, people. It's just a book. I could just like read I was like gonna just like read the essay and then like critique it as I went. But if you want, we could like I could like read it, or you could read it, and then we could like talk about it. And like because that is like me trying to lay out. There's a protagonist of the book who calls himself Animal, and he's like his back is like bent by a chemical explosion that is based in a real world one, but it takes place in a fictionalized version of the real world one.
Okay.
But his back is bent so that he has to walk on all fours. His like spine is bent, so he calls himself Animal. But he like lives a very like opportunistic, and yet empathy kindling, intelligent, but yet super non-neurotypical life that I feel like is kind of exemplary of what like an approach to this sort of thing would be. So it'd be kind of fun to like reread that, because some of the paragraphs I feel like I kind of cringed, of course, reading it again. So it would be fun to like look at it again and be like, okay, here's how my perspective has changed about this topic. And also like just to sort of like, it's an easy way to start. So maybe we can look forward to doing that for the next one.
Good. That'd be cool.
But Carson, thank you so much for being here on this inaugural episode. It's going to be so much to sift through. I don't know if I'm just going to... I hope it sounds okay, but we'll see. Hope we got something good out of it.
I think so. I mean, if anything, I had a good time.
And I hope that...
It's helpful. I mean...
Yeah.
You hope what?
It's so nice to just like be able to... Yeah, I'm so thankful for you to be here and like listening and being so interested. And also for anyone who might be listening, I'm also very thankful that you are here listening as well. I want this to be like a communal, like hive-minded hydra of a project. So if anybody's interested in any kind of thing they want to talk about, just let us know, But thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'll
thank you,
see you next time. Shape change, I suppose.
Shape change for now.
Let me just stop recording here.